Tell me a joke.
Alright, well, I got this joke from Abby. I was talking to her a couple days ago, and it's really, really long, but it's really funny.
Okay.
Okay, so this guy walks into McDonald's, and he says, I need a job. The manager says, hey, can you flip burgers? And the guy says, that's not good enough. So he goes to Wendy's, and he says, hey, I need a job. And the manager says, well, can you make Frosties? And the guy says, well, that's not good enough. So he goes to Burger King.
What a stuck-up asshole.
So he goes to Burger King, and he says, hey, I need a job. And the guy says, hey, can you make cheeseburgers? And he says, that's not good enough. So the guy goes on a cruise, and it's a confusing joke. So the guy goes on a cruise, and he walks up to the cruise manager, and he says, I need a job. And the cruise manager says, well,
The captain?
yes, the captain. So the captain says, well, can you make glue? And the guy says, well, yeah, I can make glue. Well, all right, you're hired. You got to make glue tomorrow. And they give the guy his own quarters to sleep in and everything. And the next day comes. Well, the manager comes in and says, hey, can you make glue today? The guy walks outside and he goes, oh, it's too cold today. Can't make glue. So he waits till the next day. The manager comes in and says, hey, can you make glue? And he does the same thing. Nope, it's too warm today. Can't make glue. So the next day, the manager comes in and says, hey, can you make glue? And the guy does the same thing. Perfect. It's the exact right temperature. But then he sticks his hand in the water. The water's too cold. Can't make glue today. So the next day, the manager comes in and says, hey, can you make glue?
This is a long cruise.
Shut up! And the guy goes outside and he tests the air, and the air's just right. And he tests the water, but it's too warm. Can't make glue today. So the next day, the manager comes in and he says, hey, can you make glue? And the man comes out and he tests the air, and it's just right. And he tests the water, and it's just right. So the guy goes back in his room and there's a box. And he takes a knife, and he cuts open the box. And then inside that box is another box. So he takes his knife, and he cuts open that box. And then inside that box is another box, and he cuts that box open. And then another box, and he gets halfway through cutting that box open when the knife breaks. The next day, the manager asked him, hey, can you make glue? And the guy says, no, my knife broke. The manager gave him $20 and said, here, go get yourself a knife. Well, instead of getting a knife, the man goes to McDonald's, orders everything he can, eats way too much, and throws up. The next...
Is that the glue?
No. No! No, throw up is not the glue. The next day, the manager says, hey, can you make glue? And the man says, no, I don't have a knife. Well, the manager says, here's $40. Go get a knife. Well, the guy doesn't go get a knife. He goes to Wendy's, eats way too much, and throws up again.
That's not the glue, is it?
No, throw up is not the glue.
Well, I figured since McDonald's throw up wasn't the glue, maybe Wendy's throw up.
No! Throw up in general is not the glue. Anyway, the manager comes in the next day and says, hey, can you make glue? And the guy says, nope, I don't have a knife. So the manager gives him $100 and says, go get yourself a knife. But instead, he goes to Burger King and eats all the food and throws up.
Which is not glue.
Which is not the glue. And then the next day, the manager says, hey, can you make glue? And the guy says, no, I don't have a knife. So the manager gives him $120 and tells him to go get himself a fucking knife.
Or you are fired.
Well, the guy gets himself a knife. And he goes back to the box and he continues cutting it open, and in that box is another box. He cuts that one open. And in that box is another box. And he cuts that one open. And inside that final box is a little pebble. Little itty bitty pebble.
It's cute. I shall name it Bill.
And the guy goes outside and he tests the air. And it's just right. And he tests the water. It's just right. And he slowly walks over to the edge of the boat.
Hey, Captain, come here. I'm making glue.
He lets go of the pebble. Glue.
That was the joke.
Yep.
That was the punchline.
Yeah. Ow!
That was the lamest joke I've ever heard, and it just wasted I can't read upside down.
5 minutes.
5 minutes of my time.
Yup.
Fail.